Please call the roll.
Eric Alderetti. Here. Phil Becerra.
Here.
Bruce Bauer.
Here.
James Gartner.
Here.
Sean Mill.
Here.
Mark McLaughlin. Lynette Verino. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Would everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a portion for public comments that are not on the agenda. Does a member of the public have any public comments on non-agenda items? If so, you may fill out a request to speak form with the secretary, and after introduction, have 3 minutes to speak unless an extension of time is granted by the chairman. Anybody out there with non-agenda items? Okay. Let's move on to the consent calendar.
Oh, I do have a disclosure. I'm sorry. Oh, did I?
Well, you might be jumping the gun
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry. My bad. I'm sorry.
I think, yeah, let's see here.
I did jump the gun.
Did you?
Yes, sir.
The consent calendar, do I have a motion and a second for,
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Verino and Commissioner McLaughlin absent. Communication disclosure, Commissioner Mill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I spoke with Joe Andrade of the Logan neighborhood regarding item number 1 on our agenda for the project at 1002 East 17th. He expressed his concerns to me regarding the parking variance.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Vice Chair Mill. I'd like to move on to the public hearing portion. And our first item is Ali.
Thank you, Chairman Gartner. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Similar to 2 weeks ago, the applicant for this project has requested a continuance for this item. This time the applicant is requesting an indefinite continuance. It's my understanding that the Commission needs to take action as to whether to approve the continuance or move forward with the public hearing at this time. So if allowed, the applicant can come up similar to last time and make the request, or we can leave the decision up to the body.
Commissioner Becerra.
So you're saying the applicant would like to continue it again?
Yes,
Indefinitely, right?
that's
Yeah.
correct.
Commissioner Alderetti.
I think if folks are here, we should still take their public testimony just because they're here and they've taken the time out of the day to come down.
I do have a couple speakers. Let's see, item number 1. I have several item number 1 guest speakers.
Out of respect, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Mill.
I agree with Commissioner Alderetti. Out of respect, these folks have taken time out of their day to come down here, and I think they should have the opportunity to speak.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner.
I agree with my colleagues, but I just want, for clarification, we can open the public hearing, take testimony, and then move to continue the item indefinitely. Is that correct?
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and read the script for the public speakers. And since you don't really have a presentation, since other than you suggested it be continued, or
They're asking for a continue. I mean, it's
Go ahead,
it's
Commissioner Mill.
I prefer for him to. The public is here. I prefer to have him present the.
Could we respectfully request that the staff make a presentation on their item, on the item?
I would like that.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you,
okay?
Chairman.
So we'll go ahead and
All right. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Up for discussion tonight is the Central Cultural Banquet Hall, located at 1002 East 17th Street, Unit M. This is application for CUP number 2016-13 and variance number 2016-3. This project entails allowing a banquet facility at an existing multi-tenant commercial center and allowing a reduction in required parking at an existing multi-tenant commercial center. The site is fully developed with 2 commercial buildings and surface parking. It's zoned community commercial and is surrounded by residential and commercial uses. It's located at the southwest corner of Lincoln and 17th. This is the site plan showing the existing center. North is to the right on this plan. The banquet hall is currently operating out of Unit M, which is shaded in dark gray. The center contains a variety of retail and service and eating establishment uses. The center also contains a separate restaurant building, which is currently occupied by Hometown Buffet. There are parking spaces between the buildings close to the intersection of 17th and Lincoln. There's also parking spaces close to Dorman Street to the south of the parking to the buildings on the site. This is the floor plan of the facility as it exists. Some of the equipment was installed without the benefit of permits, and this is the layout that the applicant is proposing as part of the banquet's operations. The primary entrance to the banquet facility are from the parking lot area. There's also some exits into a substandard setback area between the building and the western property line. This is the entrance to the banquet facility, and this is the site as it appears today. So for this presentation, we have taken a more issue-based approach to go through the issues that this site is facing and to go through them one by one as a run-through for this project. So to begin, staff has been in contact with members of the community as well as 3 nearby neighborhood association presidents. The community has been extremely vocal since this application was first submitted in opposing the project. The 3 neighborhood association presidents with whom staff spoke, one was strongly opposed to the facility due to some of the issues stemming from noise and parking, circulation impacts, and general nuisances, and then 2 expressed milder concerns. They were located in neighborhood associations that were not directly adjacent to or across the street from this project site. Many of the phone calls and staff outreach have focused on several items. The first is loud noise from the facility. So this facility, as it currently operates, is extremely close to single-family residences as well as a multiple-family apartment building. This project is unique in that staff has had the opportunity to basically be in contact with and know the impacts of this project basically before coming today for these permits. So the loud noise, the music, the late night congregations and loitering, as well as the side effects which stem from trash and littering when individuals return to their vehicles after the events, parking in the neighborhood and loitering around vehicles after the events, before the events, and also parking impacts to the single-family neighborhood that's behind. These have all been voiced to staff as recently as this afternoon through phone calls and in-person discussions. So secondly, this site has had a history of code enforcement activity since about 2011. The matter is currently being prosecuted by the city attorney's office. Tonight, the applicant is seeking to legalize the use, which has been operating for several years now without permits. As I was mentioning before, staff already understands the impacts of this high-intensity land use being located adjacent to sensitive land uses like single-family neighborhoods. In addition to these impacts, staff is also consulting with the Building Safety Division about the necessary upgrades that would be required to accommodate such a high-intensity land use in a commercial center that was not originally built for such uses. So the first, going back to the neighborhood impacts, staff has worked closely with the police department on this, and a police activity log or report indicates that 377 police activity incidents have been called for this center since 2011. Because when an individual calls for a police incident, they may not necessarily not know the unit number to say, I'm having an issue with Unit M, for example. Many of these police log incidents simply state 1002 East 17th Street. If this project were approved, this already high rate of police responses and servicing to the center would simply be continued at a minimum, if not exacerbated, now that the facility would be allowed to continue legally. Secondly, one of the neighborhood impacts that staff has been aware of is the congestion and impacts caused by street parking due to the lack of on-site parking available at the site. Many of the patrons to the banquet facility are parking on Dorman Street and other streets in the local neighborhood. This is causing safety issues when parking is so impacted on the street that vehicles can't see cyclists, motorists, pedestrians, and simply also causing other nuisance activities that stem from that, loitering and hanging out after banquet events and the sort. Finally, in terms of the neighborhood impacts, there's an insufficient setback between the building in which this banquet facility currently operates and the neighborhood directly to the west. So there's currently a substandard setback of about 4 feet between the wall of this back wall of this facility and then the property line wall. There are 2 exit doors into this setback area that the building department has provided opinions on that are grossly inefficient to accommodate an emergency egress if something were to take place at this facility. So transitioning into building code issues, as I was stating before, there are limited egress opportunities in case of an event. The size of this facility would allow up to almost 400 individuals to be at this location, and the way that it is configured right now would require substantial upgrades to fire suppression systems if there were ever an emergency at this location, alarms in case of an emergency, and fire separations between Unit M and their neighbors. Finally, this use is impacting other tenants in the commercial center. Recently, staff received outreach from a fellow tenant in the center complaining of lack of on-site parking during evening hours because of the insufficient parking provided at the site. When there are not enough parking spaces to accommodate all uses at the site, even in a shared parking scenario, it does negatively impact other businesses and can lead to problems with tenancy and renting and all the economic blight that can stem from that. Finally, as was stated before with the police department call service log, if this facility were allowed to continue to operate, it would simply maintain the status quo of the high incidence of police service calls, if not result in additional ones as the facility moves forward with operations. So based on these issues and analysis and neighborhood outreach, staff recommends that the Planning Commission deny CUP number 2016-13 and variance number 2016-3. We'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions? Commissioner Becerra.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellent report. I loved how thorough and detailed it was. It kind of gives us all some context. Just a question about the length of operation. So how long have they been operating prior to coming to us today?
The earliest code enforcement records for the site indicate that the first reports and complaints came in 2011.
So we believe they've been operating since 2011. We're in 2016, and I guess was it just code enforcement operations that eventually got them to come in to apply for a CUP?
It's a combination of code enforcement being able to escalate the matter over a series of steps.
Right.
If there's a lack of response from the property owner and or tenant, then it escalates to the city attorney's office, which can then elect to pursue prosecution, which is what's happening right now.
So this property got to the point that the city attorney had to be involved, and again, now they're here before us today.
That's correct.
I believe this was a court order.
They requested.
They requested.
They'd requested a continuance, and so they've been continuing the matter. They wanted to get before you. The next appearance for the court is June 1st.
So I guess as far as that, you bring up something very interesting. So that date, June 1st, whether we act or don't act, does that somehow play into the procedure? No. In other words, if we don't act, it's going to go to court with potential actions against them from the court.
Yes.
But yet the applicant is asking us to continue the item.
Yes.
Okay. And so, just to be absolutely clear, this this use is not operating legitimately, and the reason they're in here is because they need to get a legitimate conditional use permit to operate.
That's correct. The zoning code requires a CUP for a banquet facility in this zoning district, and because the facility does not provide, or the site does not provide sufficient parking spaces, it also triggers a need for a parking variance application.
And then one last question. So, did they submit a parking study? Are they? I guess what was the findings of that study?
So staff, as part of the development project review process, needs to identify possible solutions to any sort of parking deficiency. In this case, a parking study would need to make the claim that a shared parking approach is possible,
Right.
wherein certain uses are open during the day and then certain operate at night. Because already the site is deficient in parking, and even if only the 3 restaurants on the site remained open, introducing this banquet facility would already require more parking spaces than what's provided on the site. So a shared parking scenario is not possible, therefore staff did not request a parking study for this center.
So minus the banquet facility, all the uses that are in the center currently, it would still, the parking is less than adequate for the uses that are currently there now.
That's correct. Coupled with looking into the future, the grade separation project between the railroad and the 17th Street crossing will also result in additional losses of parking from the site.
So a site that's already got inadequate parking will then also face future loss of parking.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mill?
Are you aware of Santa Ana Police being called to that facility because of loud parties, specifically to that site because of loud parties?
Yes. So the log does, like I said, it doesn't sometimes state specifically the unit, but it does state, loud noise from a possible events facility operating late into the evening. Similar phrasing.
Okay. I'll reserve my questions for the applicant.
Is there any other questions from the commission for staff? Commissioner Bauer?
I'm just curious, Ollie, on the code enforcement side of this matter. This thing's been going on for 5 years. It takes 5 years before it will actually escalate up to a court order, and I assume the city's trying to shut them down?
It does take that much sometimes for a case to escalate to the court system, and yes, the city has been focused on this through the code enforcement process for a number of years. And remember that first we try to get compliance before we escalate things. Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Becerra?
As far as do they have a business license for this use?
No.
So no business license or a CUP?
No, a business license could not be issued without a certificate of occupancy, and a certificate of occupancy may not be issued until the entitlements are approved. So
we don't have a business license, a C of O, or a CUP? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mill, you had another question? Commissioner Alderetti, anything? Okay. Thanks, Ali. Guess we're good. Thank you, Commissioner Becerra, for bringing it up, and Commissioner Mill for with the good speakers out there that they should have a chance to speak. So, and Commissioner Bauer.
If I may, do we haven't approved the request for a continuance, have we?
No, we're hearing we've heard the staff presentation, and because we have a lot of speaker cards, Commissioner Mill brought up the fact that folks
that's what I understood.
So we're kind of going to hear it now and then determine if we
good.
wish to continue it.
Thank you.
So that being said, I'm going to read if you wish to address the Planning Commission, please file a request to speak form with the Secretary, which people have done. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, and watch those little lights up there. And unless an extension of time is granted by the Chairman. The action of the Planning Commission is final, following consent of the City Council, unless, if allowed by the Santa Ana Municipal Code, an appeal to the City Council is filed, and a copy sent to the Planning Department within 10 days from the date of the Commission's action, or unless set for public hearing by City Council. So I have several speaker cards. I'm going to start with, forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, Teresa Arellano. think, is that right? Teresa? Yeah. Well, yours is on the top, so I guess you're probably screwed up your name, so sorry about that.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Arellano. I am a tenant in the facility. I've been there since 2011. I have an income tax and immigration practice, and I will say that I have not had a single problem with the parking situation. I have 2,000 to 3,000 people coming into my office during tax season, and we have a lot of the hometown facility open. The hometown facility, the hometown restaurant seems to have people that come in like waves. Probably like lunch and then like dinner. So a lot of the time, the facility, the back parking of the facility is open to us. So we've never had a parking situation there, ever. And I don't have a problem with the noise. I don't hear any noise. They seem to keep their doors closed. I don't hear it, okay? As any business person, the more people that come into the plaza, they look at your signs, and actually people that come in for something else in the plaza will eventually come to my office for tax or for immigration, whatever. So it's very, very nice to have all the units occupied because it generates work for everyone else. So like I said, I have no complaints about the parking situation. I have no complaints about the noise. And all the businesses there seem to complement each other. We have every business, a lot of our clients, we share with a lot of the businesses there. So as a tenant there, I really do not have a problem. And I don't see, I know that there's been a homeless problem, and people do call because there are quite a few people, that hang out there. Maybe that's why the calls are coming in. But we have, somehow the parking just really works for us. I don't have any parking problems at all. If you go at any given time, the backside of the people that come into Hometown Buffet share our parking in the front, so they don't use the back. So most of the time, the back is open. And the people that come into the banquet, they usually come like Saturday and Sunday, and they park in the back. And there's a lot of parking in the back. So as a tenant, I do not have a problem with that. And, like I said, business there, it just generates business for everyone else in the plaza. Thank you.
Thank you. Abelina Velazquez, did I get that even close?
Hi, my name's Abelina Velazquez, and I actually am a resident on Dorman Street. We are completely impacted by everything that was on the slide. Parking is a problem. Drinking outside of the facility. We have people urinating on the backside of the parking lot. I have a 6-year-old daughter that when we don't have parking, or when she's coming out of cars at that time, the music's really loud. They have a black, like a sliding, kind of like a warehouse type gate where they have it open almost all of the time. This weekend they had a party there. They had their big banda. I don't know if you know, it's like the big orchestra type band. They were rehearsing on the parking lot outside. So I live directly across the street from there. With my windows closed in my house, I still hear the music into my house. Like I said, we have had cars in the middle of the night burning out. I am one of those residents that have called the police on several occasions. Without wanting, even if you don't want to, when you hear burning out in the street, you automatically wake up from your sleep, you get up, they're impacting our sleep at night. They're impacting my child's sleep at night. She wakes up and she gets nervous. What's that, Mom? Mom, what is that? It's fine, go to sleep. We have tried to speak to the people to try to, please keep your gates closed, please, keep your parking on, where you need to keep your residents. It doesn't happen. You know, I don't know if they don't have management or someone there at all times, but the impact on me, my child, and my family it's been going on for as long as they've been operating. The parking situation, it's completely impacted. This weekend there was no parking at all on our street. So if they have so much parking in their parking lot in the front, I don't understand why they come onto Dorman Street. That's my question. Because the truth is, there is no parking. Our Mexican parties, we can party. We invite plenty of people to join our festivities, and it gets highly impacted. So I just wanted to voice my word as a mother. My concerns are, my child. The impact it has on her sleep, the impact it has on her environment, the impact it has on anything that can cause any kind of harm to her, and parking as well. We can get home at night and we can't park. We have to go into our driveway and kind of mini park, which I've got cited for, by the way, because I'm not supposed to park like that on my driveway. So even to that point where I've gotten ticketed because there's nowhere to park. And I'm not going to stay up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to wait to see for a parking spot to come available as well. So those are my concerns as a resident on Dorman Street that we've been dealing with for so many years. In our home, we've lived there for over 20 years. So it's not just, okay, get up and leave, It's, something that we feel that we should be able to stay in our community and not be pushed out by different kind of businesses and by this facility as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask just one quick question.
Sure.
You mentioned a roll-up door. I was just real quickly trying to look at the aerial to...
I have pictures.
But so if I'm standing on your street...
Yes.
And I'm looking...
Directly at the
building,
facility.
So I'm looking north, I could see the roll-up door right there.
Yes, you could see all the way into the party hall.
'Cause I've been in that shopping center many a times, but I've never looked at it from your street.
Yeah,
so
so you can see into the facility, yes. It's a big, warehouse type of roll-up door.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I have Walter Martinez.
Good afternoon, my name is Walter Martinez, and I'm here for the same issue with the parking, the noise. I have 2 kids at home. I have an 8-month-old and a 6-year-old boy. Like I said, they probably don't have issues with their parking because most of the time that access, if you look at the backside of Dorman Street, there's an entryway directly to our residence or our street, which really has no sense if it's not needed. They have plenty of entrances and exits from their front side and from the other side of the street. They come and they park from the party. They just come and they park in the street and just walk directly into the party through the back door. Like I said, the roll-up door. Beer bottles, all of that stuff. There's even times where we've gone over there and just picked the stuff up, clean it up so it could look a little bit nicer. Loud noise, late music. I got double pane windows that I got replaced, and like I said, I still hear it. So that didn't help much. And that's pretty much all I got. It's just the parking issues. They're saying if they are gonna allow them to do that, and I don't see why our street should at least be paid with a permit, which wouldn't allow the people from the party come over here and park in that area without a permit or a sticker on their car. That way we can have our access to our own parkings. Like I said, I got single garage, so I only got 2 to 3 spaces for cars. I got about 4 or 5 cars in the house, so I'm having issues sometimes moving the cars. I got to stay up late night till I got an open spot, and then I'll move my car there. So yeah, I think if we at least get to where the block is permitted, that would show them to see if they really have enough parking spaces allowed. Because like I said, we live there. Now they have a business there. They're not there 24 hours. Now we're there 24/7. So we get to see everything and deal with it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Joe Thompson.
Hi, thank you. My name is Joe Thompson, and I currently lease out the space O and P, which is directly adjacent to the subject space M. There is no N. And I've been there for about 15 years, since 2001, so I've witnessed a lot of businesses come and go. Before his business, we had a boxing ring there for a while, and they made a lot of noise, they caused a lot of fights, they caused a lot of police calls. I think that's where some of those calls have come from, because I believe Raul's only been around for 3-4 years. And I work at my business. I'm there late at night. I get there early in the morning. My business is a family business. I love it when parents and their kids come in, they do their laundry, and everybody's having a good time. The kids are running all around, everybody's happy. Well, Raul's business is also a family business. Every time I come there and I see a party, everybody's dressed up nice. He doesn't serve alcohol. I don't see any fights. I mean, I see a lot of families there, and families having good fun, good clean fun. They're dancing, they're eating cake and ice cream, and they're just enjoying life. And I'd rather have them there than running around in the street unsupervised, where they could be supervised. So, I think this is a really beneficial place. Maybe if they could roll down the back door. I don't hear much noise in the front as I come up, when I come into the business and the party's going. He always keeps the doors closed. He always seems to have a security guard there. And I've never witnessed any fights or issues. His business promotes my business. My business has gone up about 10% in the last 3-4 years. And I think it's because people are coming, families are coming, and they're seeing another family business. Hey, let's try that place. And I haven't done any advertising, so it must be accountable for something. He also uses my washers. I've got big washers in the front. And he brings his tablecloths over from all his tables, so he promotes my business too. So he didn't know I was going to be here today. I just showed up out of the blue to help him out because I think it's a family business. It's a good business. It's clean business. I've never seen any fights. I haven't seen beer bottles anywhere. He cleans up the place. The parties usually get over about midnight. The music stops, and by 1 a.m. there's 2 or 3 cars in the parking lot. Everybody's gone. So when I leave, whatever's there on the grounds, Raul picks up. But the next morning when I come back, it's clean. It's like he had a professional street sweeper come by. So I don't see a mess. Let's see. As far as the parking goes, and this weekend was kind of different because it was Mother's Day. Hometown Buffet was packed. And they're people, they encroach on our parking spaces too. But by the afternoon, they're gone. And then they have a big lot, 60, 70 car parking space behind them, which when they're gone, then we kind of use theirs when we need overflow. So it's kind of funny. It flows back and forth, and we seem to use each other's space, and it works out. I didn't know about the issue with parking on Dorman Street. But there seems to be a lot of parking to the east of us. Let's see. As far as I'm concerned, Raul, he's running a good business. It's a clean business, a family business. I want to see more family businesses. I'd hate for him to leave and somebody else come in there with bigger problems like we've had in the past. I myself have called the police many times on transients sleeping around, and I've been burglarized, and my neighbor's been burglarized. So most of those calls, I don't know that they're all related to his business.
I just want to bring to your attention, we're trying to keep it at 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm done.
You done?
I'm done.
All right, good deal.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Okay. Tony Palamas. I saw you shaking your head back there, so I figured you were antsy to speak.
Well, I think Mr. Ali covered most of the issues I had. I thought I'd come up because I've tried speaking to Raul. I think that's the name of the business owner, and he just didn't seem to care. I think he just thought he was a business owner and he can control the whole environment with the money. That's the feeling I got because he kind of blew me off. And as far as businesses next door, I don't know how he can say that people leave after the party and then there's nothing going on if his business closes around 9 or 10 o'clock. So by the time the party's over, he's gone. When the party's over, inside it starts outside. They start drinking. They have tents. They have that roll-up door in the back. They start breaking down the tents, and it's really loud. It's almost louder than the music. Then they have all those beer bottles. They say they don't serve bottle liquor, but we hear the bottles all the time. There's always beer cartons on the backside. There's bottles all the time. They start picking them up at 12, 1 in the morning, and that's really loud. It's louder than the music. I don't know how they can sit there and say that there's no alcohol. When he knows. I'm sure he knows. There's people urinating all the time, so I don't know what's so clean about that. It's a business, a family business. I wouldn't want my family to be witnessing that stuff, the urinating. I don't know if he's into that stuff, and as far as the parking, with all respect, you said you have no issue, but you should look at the backside because that's where everybody's parking. If they have plenty of parking, they should move everybody into their lot. That's what I think. And security guards, I've never seen a security guard, at least not in the backside. And I think that's probably where they should have it because that's where they have residents. Fights, I've seen fights there. People speeding out of there. I live directly across the street from where that driveway is. People are always, they always take off really fast right there for some reason. I don't know why. And I think one of these days they're going to end up in my driveway. So I think it's dangerous for people living there.
I just wanted to ask you mentioned something about tents.
Right.
So same thing I asked before. So if I'm standing on your street, where are these tents at?
Well, sometimes they set them up right outside of that roll-up door. I guess they cook there sometimes.
So right where from what I was looking on the aerial,
Right.
looks like there's some parking.
Right.
So they take up parking.
They take up parking.
with
I don't
tents.
know if they set up anything inside, but I've heard them several times taking down tents in the middle of the night.
Okay, but you've seen them set up.
Yes, I've seen tents set up there, and also the music. They, I guess, they say that their main entrance is in the front. Maybe for the guests it is, but in the back, all that goes on: the music, the beer. People always walking out to urinate in the back because I don't even know if they have enough restrooms in there for all their guests. That all goes on in the back, so they probably don't see it, but we do.
No, and I appreciate your testimony. That the main premise of my question was just when you mentioned the tents, I hadn't heard anybody else mention those. So, but thank you for clarifying that.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Robert Palamo.
Hello, my name is Robert. We've been living in the area since 1988, and I'm directly behind the facility also. I guess one of the biggest concerns that I have, and I've already had this accident, they're saying they don't serve beer. I've already had somebody slam into my truck right across the way, and it was an uninsured motorist. Luckily, I have uninsured motorist insurance, and they were able to fix my truck. Next question that I do have is, I don't know if this business is supposed to be running right now or not. I mean, my understanding is they don't have a business license. They're not supposed to be serving alcohol or anything. They're still running parties. I mean, I got pictures of this weekend where they had a party. Right here on your guys' report, it shows that there's only 231 parkings available for the whole facility when the gentleman over here is asking for a facility that can hold up to 400 people. I mean, that's going to be a situation with parking there alone. I just got so many things to say, I just blanked out. I mean, it's just all the way around, the way you look at it is just a bad situation. These people don't care. I mean, most of the people that rent on the facility are there from, nobody knows what's going on until it gets past 9, 10, 11, when people are drunk, when people are driving out of there. I mean, growing up in this area, I've been there since '88. We were able to walk out there, we were able to play out there on our bikes, play football on the street. We can't do that anymore. I got a little 6-year-old girl that we don't even let her out on the streets because it's not safe. We're worried that somebody's going to drive out, hit her. I mean, people pissing on the back over there. I mean, it's just not safe. I mean, I'm sure you guys growing up, you guys had a little life. Growing up, you were playing around with your friends and stuff like that on the street. I mean, you can't do that anymore, you know, and you got to have them behind a computer or an iPad, keeping them busy, you know. I mean, I don't think that's fair. So, I mean, that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Raul Baldera, I can't quite read your... Okay, thanks. Sorry about that.
I'm Raul Valderrama. When I first started there, we do have a business license, and we've been paid in it every year. I don't have the certificate of occupancy here. And eventually, it's not really like parties all the time like they mentioned. I opened that space because I like the atmosphere and the parking space and where it's at as a community hall to do meetings, presentations, little conventions here and there for the families. And occasionally there were some events like baptisms, quinceañeras, and everything. That's when the city came to me and they say, Raul, you need to do upgrade to, for the certificate of occupancy to do it as a banquet hall. That's when all this started, okay? And about the gentleman's here, is the house across the street. The rolling door that he's talking about is where the equipment goes in. But at 4:30, 5 o'clock the latest, we close it down. And the noise, I hardly hear the noise. Like I usually walk around that area over there. There is the freeway right there by them. There is the trains right there going by every 20 minutes. And honestly, the gentleman, I've been there for 4 years. We only talked once when I first started because he complained to me, and I said to him, we'll take care of the problem. If any complaints, just come to me and we'll take care of it. And these situations can be corrected. As the gentleman was saying, parking, not everybody goes and parks at the same time. Even the Hometown Buffet people came when the business was going down because I'm into multi-level marketing company called For Life. We gather people go there. When they're hungry, we go to Hometown Buffet. Their business started going up. We became friends. And I never have any problems with anyone. All I want to do, they asked me if I wanted to get authorized to sell liquor and all that. I don't want none of that. I just want to keep it the way it is. And I mentioned that to the gentleman. He says, because it says on the paper, oh, you're operating without the proper licenses. No, I didn't think I had to bring the certificate of occupancy with me. But all these situations can be corrected. The double door, if they don't want it open, we don't open it. People can come through the front. We use the door, the rolling door, just to load it, the big equipment, the speakers, and that's it. And I'm always have a security guard by the door to be sure that they don't open it when there is the noise or the music. And I'm sorry, like I say, if we communicate about the situations, the parking, and about the beer bottles in the back or people urinating, all I say is not true. You know what I'm saying? Because most of the guests go to the front. We only use the rolling door for the equipment to come in. But if that becomes really an issue with them, like I was talking to them, we could correct those situations. It's a matter of communicating and correct the situations. And I think it will work for all of us. Whenever they need the hall for a meeting or a small event, I talk to them. All the other neighbors, they're happy with it. They're happy that I came there. And it's less graffiti outside. The shopping center has been cleaned and painted. And I just want to have the opportunity to continue and give a chance. And the way it is, if everybody wasn't happy, they live across the street on Norman Street. There are some people behind my doors, and they say, Raul, why don't you open up the doors? We want to listen to the music.
You know, I've kind of been cutting everyone off with 3 minutes. You're the applicant, and I know that our vice chair has a question for you, so maybe we can go ahead and ask a couple questions. And we may wind up bringing you back up or something if we have additional questions. Let's go with that.
How long have you been at that location?
Since 2011.
And so you're saying since 2011 you did not know that you were operating an illegal business, that you had no idea that you needed a certificate of occupancy?
I do have the certificate of occupancy, yes. Okay. And we do have the business licenses. But when they came to me, when things like someone complained about the music, that's when the city came to me and said, hey, Raul, you need to do the upgrade as a true banquet hall, because supposedly the hall they require to set up a kitchen, when you do like events, that's why.
Okay, you had something to add, Candida?
There is no certificate of occupancy. You get certificates of occupancy for specific uses, and for the banquet hall use, there is no certificate of occupancy.
That's why they asked me for the upgrade.
Okay, so you're holding parties in there currently, yes?
Occasionally, yes.
Illegally?
Well, if it's considered illegally, I guess.
Okay, so the answer would be yes,
That's why
you are. Okay.
That's why we're trying to correct the problem.
Okay.
We submitted everything.
You're saying that at no time is alcohol served at your facility? Never?
No, I'm not saying that. I never say that. Usually customers, when there is an event, they bring limited, like beer or wine, but that's about it. We don't sell it, we don't promote it or anything.
Could I ask, just real quick, is it the, since he's the operative facility, what is his legal obligation as far, he's responsible if folks bring liquor on site?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Okay. So you're operating a legal business without the proper licensing and everything, and alcohol is being served at your facility illegally. And that's what you're telling me, yes, correct?
Yes, I guess so.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, sir.
Commissioner Becerra. Yeah, we have a couple questions.
So I think Commissioner Mill answered or asked the question I had, which was, so you have parties where alcohol is present on the site?
Yes, but we don't supply the alcohol.
But it's still present on the site?
Yes, occasionally it is.
And then my other question is, so you've said many times that you want to work through the problems, you want to rectify, basically get everything taken care of. Why have you been continuing this item? And why has it gotten to the point that the city attorney's office is involved? And the reason I ask that is because in other instances of cases that have come before us, someone's in violation, staff, whether it's code enforcement or planning, has alerted the business owner or operator. They've applied for the permits, they've come before us, and we've moved on. But it sounds like here this has been a little more complicated because it sounds like things have been dragged out, but yet I'm hearing you say we just want to take care of the situation. Could you help me understand why it's taken this long?
Because at one point we hired this architect to do all the process, and somehow he started out, he says, don't worry about it, don't worry, he dragged it on too long. That all of a sudden we got the letter from the district attorney. That's what happened, and he didn't do the job, and we had to find someone else to continue with the process. Apparently, there are some people that don't work ethically, and that's what happened. Basically, we got behind because of the mistake of someone else.
No, and that happens, and I can sympathize because there are some contractors that don't fulfill their obligations, but we have an application before us, a staff recommendation of denial. Help me understand if you're saying that you didn't get all the work from the architect, but staff, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe staff would have brought this before us if there wasn't a complete application and all the materials necessary for the Planning Commission to make a determination. So are we saying that the application's incomplete?
Well, for the strategy of the parking variance and all that, I think so.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is probably better of a question for staff. I'm sorry to put you guys out there on that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question one more time?
Well, my question was just simply, he's saying that, he's had contractors that have not fulfilled their obligations to him. And I said, I understand that, but my concern is that we've got an application before us. We've got a recommendation from staff. And from our experience up here on the commission, you guys wouldn't bring us something unless you had a complete application and all the materials so that you guys can process it and make a determination, or make a recommendation, which we have before us today. The applicant seems to be seeking the continuance. So I just wanted to clarify for all of us, we have a complete application before us, correct?
Yes, the applicant did turn in a complete submittal package in order to have enough materials to come before the hearing today.
Okay, so I guess, thank you very much, Ali. So I guess, sir, that's where I'm confused, because it sounds like we've got everything to proceed, and now you're saying you want to continue. You continued 2 weeks ago, and now you're continuing today. So I'm just trying to understand if you do really, excuse me, if you do really want to work on fixing the situation, but your actions show me that you're continuing the item, you're delaying this, so I'm just trying to understand why you're doing that.
Basically, we want to do this properly done, the way this will work for all of us, as a business point of view.
Okay, that's your answer, that's fine. Thank you very much.
I have a speaker, Benigno Cervantes. Oh, he doesn't want to do it. Okay. Well, you want to translate a little bit, or?
Do we have a translator?
Yes.
Oh, Vernie can. Hey, Vernie, you want to? Then we can speak a little bit and get the general drift.
Thank you very much.
Vernie's multi-talented.
Bueno, mi nombre es Benigno Cervantes. Yo tengo el mismo problema de mis neighbors. Antes nunca habíamos tenido ningún problema. Yo tengo ahí viviendo en esa área por 40 años y hasta hoy estoy viendo eso. Y estoy viendo que ese lugar no es para esa clase de negocios.
Con permiso. Mr. Cervantes has lived in the neighborhood approximately 40 years. Good evening. And this is the kind of first time he's experiencing these types of issues in his neighborhood. And from what he's hearing here tonight, it might not be a good location for this sort of business.
Y ahora, precisamente hace como 6 meses, hice un complaint porque ahí en mi área siempre había un olor feo a cerveza o no sé qué tantas cosas. Vino a la ciudad, chequeó y en ese momento no apareció nada, pero no estoy de acuerdo yo.
All right, about 6 months ago, he actually submitted a complaint where there was a certain odor in his neighborhood that he couldn't kind of figure out. Later, he found out that it was kind of alcohol related. He was smelling alcohol, and so he had never had that sort of issue before.
Y ahora el problema también que tenemos sobre los parkings. Estamos ahí llenos de parkings de personas que no conocemos y siempre hay ahí por la calle lo que nunca había habido, borrachos, haciendo sus necesidades en la calle y música de esa hora de la noche, y yo creo que eso no es para ese barrio.
The other issue that he'd like to bring up has to do with parking intrusion and impacts to the neighborhood, public intoxication and public urination. He doesn't think that that's a good thing for his neighborhood.
Y además tantas personas que se parquean ahí que no sabemos quiénes son. Ahora, si quieren poner esos parkings ahí, peor va a ser todo. Va a estar la policía ahí continuamente, lo que no estamos acostumbrados a eso. Es un barrio residencial, no es un barrio comercial. El comercio está allá y el barrio está acá. Si es que nos van a quitar nuestros parkings, van a invadir nuestra calle y no sé.
His last comment had to do with essentially strangers kind of living in his neighborhood that aren't residents of the neighborhood. He's got some concerns about residential intrusion into his mostly residential neighborhood. He'd like to leave the commercial component on the commercial side, and he's not in favor of having those types of impacts where potentially police department and others may have to kind of intervene.
Y para mi opinión, que esa clase de negocios deben de ponerlos en un área que no sea residencial, que sea industrial, para que ahí sí tengan tiempo, lugar donde parquear a sus clientes, que nosotros no tenemos la necesidad de soportar esa clase de problemas. siendo que el barrio siempre ha sido muy tranquilo y como repito, no queremos que la policía ande ahí rondeando nomás por esos negocios, que no deben estar ahí. Es todo lo que yo puedo decir.
And his final comment, again, has to do with maintaining the residential character of his neighborhood and potentially having the applicant locate in either a commercial or industrial location more suitable for this sort of use. He doesn't want to have continued problems with police activity in his neighborhood and wants to kind of live in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Richard Garcia. You're representing the applicant then?
Yes. My name is Richard Garcia, and I'm currently the Santa Ana Memorial Park Neighborhood Association for the past 10 years. And Mr. Valderrama asked me for my services to assist him with these issues. And I agree with the neighbors 100% what they're saying. And this is the reason why I didn't personally see them, but I was aware of the problems and issues. That's why he brought me into this issue so we can see what we can do to resolve it. And the majority of the times when I do things, the issues get resolved. And currently, when we found out that this issue went to the court systems, and it's true, it was our engineers and others that was working with this didn't quite bond. And during that time, that's when it went to court. So as for me, and as well as some of you know me, I work very, very hard. And I'm native of Santa Ana, and my number one concern is the neighbors. And this is the reason why he bought me. Because if the neighbors are not content, and if the issues are real big, then we have to solve these issues. And in order for us to solve this is get each issue one by one and solving them. Not all together, not all together. So we tackle one issue, we get to another. We're in the process of hiring a security company. As a matter of fact, he should be on his way here. And our recommendation to the security company is to operate from the time that they're scheduled to operate, but at the time is when the event's over at 11:30 or quarter to 12. Their main objective is to make sure that they escort everybody out, like toward the end, and the last car that leaves the facility, that's going to be their responsibility, the security company. We're not going to have nobody wandering around, and if anybody needs assistance on removing their vehicles from the parking, then that will be accommodated through a tow truck or anybody else. They'll stay out there until the last person leaves. And I'm gonna illustrate this to me, like I said again, the neighborhood is my straightforward. That's my main concern. So I've put it this way, I've complained about these issues at other areas. So I feel for them. I live next to an auction at the auction, South Coast Auction. We had issues like that out there. So I definitely understand. I've been through it also, and I'll do everything to my knowledge and the best of my ability to see what I can do and assist the neighborhood. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Ricardo Gutterby.
Yes, my name is Ricardo, by the way. I bought the property in 2010. Actually, it was a disaster. It's a gang community. When I get there, I get broken windows every day. I fixed maybe 10 of them. I don't know why these people complain about noise. They only have 30 houses, 35 houses. They have a freeway on one side. They have a train on the other side. And the noise of the 17th Street. The ambulance goes all the time. I put 16 cameras on the facility. I renovate that property real well. I feel like they have a decent place to go and walk around and feel safe. Before, it wasn't safe. All that thing has bars and the windows. Right now, I think it's a better community. I'm there to help them. Every day, the neighbors I see park the car and walk the street to park in their home. Especially, I told them, the day of the sweeper, I'm more than happy they let them have park in my side. They have the right to park, I think, in the residential side, and not in the commercial side. The commercial side belongs to us. I told them that I will sign the permit parking for them in the street. And talk to me if I have a problem, because I'm willing to work with them. If anything I can do in my side, I'm willing to do it. Because I'm not coming to have a better community. I'm here to better the community. I live in Santa Ana for more than 46 years. I love Santa Ana. I work in Santa Ana. I love Santa Ana. That's my city. And since I came there, I call for the homeless people, because I have maybe 6 or 7 people, homeless people, that sleep in the side all the time. One with a dog, one with a big truck full of trash. I call them all the time. The city never showed up. Actually, for the homeless, they go and drive by and kind of tell them to go. But I am here, and I wanted to work with them. The facility, they only work 2 days of the week. Only Friday and Saturday, and the Baptist and communities and maybe quinceañeras. I don't think it's the disaster they say. They have it worse before, and I can assure you that. And I want to work with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lorena Rodriguez.
Good afternoon to everyone. I'm here today. I live actually in the Logan area. Not there. It doesn't really affect me, but my parents live in the Dorman area. And both of my parents are now retired. And personally, I am very worried because, like I said, they are all retired, both of them. And I'm just worried for their health and quality of life that they have now. They've been there for many years. I used to live there when I was younger. And I don't know, I just hope that you guys hear us. We are the ones that getting the impact. My parents, like I said, they're older. I want the best for them. They're retired. Obviously, they're not going to be able to sell their home and go somewhere else because they're retired. They don't have any income coming in. So that's one thing that I would really want you guys to understand. My parents, is their health is what worries me. And I'm sorry, I'm just really... also, like I mentioned, I lived in the Logan area. Joe, what is his? I'm sorry, I'm very nervous right now.
That's all right.
Joe is my neighbor, the person that spoke to you. We've also had problems with them in my neighborhood. It was on the corner, their location was on the corner of Santa Ana Boulevard and Penway. Found out, now I'm putting the connection together that this is the same business that was kicked out of that area. Now the buildings are knocked down. They're going to be doing, I believe it's low-income families. But at one point, we were through the same problem. Loud music, police was called constantly, so they were kicked out of there. And now I don't want my parents to go through this problem with the loud music and all that. And that's pretty much all I want to say. My main concern is my parents, their health. I only have one mom and one dad. I want the best for them. And I just hope that you understand and hear me. Those are my parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to speak that has not filled out a card? Okay. Do we have any written communication on this at all?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to bring this back. If there's no other speakers, I'd like to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Becerra.
I just want to ask a question of staff. In regards to serving alcohol at a facility, if they're not selling the alcohol, do they need a conditional use permit to serve the alcohol, especially in the case of a banquet facility?
Yes, if the operator were to wish to sell alcohols to patrons of this business, they would need a separate conditional use permit.
But not, so if they, let's just say hypothetically, they come in, they already obtained their banquet use, would they need a separate CUP for alcohol served, just to serve it, to have it on the premise?
Yes, as part of the banquet use, they would need to have a
So we're talking
CUP.
about two different CUPs, right?
Yes, there would be a banquet CUP and then there would be a liquor license CUP.
Even a BYOB, even like if they're bringing their own alcohol?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm
That's
asking.
what
It's
you're
not the
asking.
sales, because, well, and the reason why I'm asking this is because the application before us has a parking variance and a CUP for banquets. So even under just those two, they're still deficient, because then based on what we've heard today, if they're allowing folks to consume alcohol on the premises, they would need a CUP for that.
I don't believe there's a CUP required for BYOB. The Santa Ana Municipal Code is written such that a CUP is required for establishments selling alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mill. Oh,
Did we close? Do you have a comment?
well, we brought it back to the commission for discussion.
My comments would be, I have no desire to continue this item. I think I've heard enough. I don't think that they can do anything in the next 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years to change what I think the decision we need to move forward is. It would be my recommendation that we move forward and follow staff's recommended action, which would be to adopt a resolution denying the conditional use permit 2016-13 and the variant, denying adoption, denying the variance 2016-03.
I'll second that with the discussion.
And I have a question too, but go ahead, Commissioner.
So in let's say we move forward with the motion on the table right now. Is there, I guess from the standpoint from the city attorney, so this item, if we did deny it, it would not move on to city council. It would be denied unless appealed to city council. Let's play out that it isn't, and would it still go forward to trial for some prosecutorial actions?
Yes.
Okay. And so regardless of what we do here today,
The criminal case will not be affected.
it will still continue forward. Okay.
Commissioner Bauer. And then
Yeah, I just had a comment. I think this business owner is actually the poster child of how we do not want a business to operate in the city. You are acting as if you were the victim here, and really you're the victimizer. I mean, you've known that this business is illegal, at least for the recent memory. You've required precious city resources that the city needs elsewhere to utilize those resources to enforce ordinances that are in place to guard against this very business. And you have what you have when a business operates illicitly. You have neighbors that are impacted and they're victimized repeatedly. So I take great umbrage at the suggestion that you're a victim here. You're not at all. And this is precisely the kind of case we should not allow a continuance. This is, I have nothing further.
Commissioner Alderetti.
So just getting back to the legal posture, what is the purpose of the hearing? It's not a revocation. Is it just a...
There's code enforcement action.
So it's the violation, then okay. Thanks. I just was curious about that. I agree with Commissioner Bauer. I won't use as sort of, I take the sentiment well. I appreciate the applicant's situation, but unfortunately it's a situation of your own making, and you can't operate without a license, without permits, and then request forgiveness. I think you probably might have had that opportunity in 2011, but we're kind of at this point too far down the line. And I think, you know, your track record is what it is, and unfortunately it's not a good one. And so I think what you'll find with other commissioners, although I don't want to speak for them, is that that's the best evidence of what we have and how this business may be operated in the future. So that's my only comment.
Commissioner Becerra.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to thank Mr. Garibay for the improvements that he's made to that plaza. And, you know, I've been in Santa Ana for a very long time, and I've seen those improvements. So I thank you for that. But the item before us today, you know, I want to thank the community that came out and informed us to let us know. I mean, I trust our staff, and they gave us a great report as to what's going on, and the presentation today was very informative. But, you know, there was a couple of items that you, at least for me, you helped me understand the direct impact to your area. I'll be supporting the motion that I seconded. I just, you know, as Commissioner Alderete said, I mean, kind of put yourself in the position. You know, you did what you did. What I'm offended by is just the fact that you keep continuing it and dragging it out. If we didn't have an application before us, you wouldn't be before us, then you'd be going back and forth with staff. But something's before us today. And it's not like you don't know how your facility is operating. You've heard concerns from the community, and obviously haven't addressed them, or else they wouldn't be out here today to express their concerns of the impacts. So with that being said, I'll be very supportive of the motion before us.
Are there any other questions, discussion, comments? I had listened to neighbors, and I understand business people, and I appreciate the owners, your adjacent owners supporting you, but to have it for another 2 weeks or another 2 years, I have to agree with Commissioner Mill. It was operating for so long illegally. Another 2 weeks, it's just going to let it go on longer. I will be supporting the motions on the floor as well. So with that, if there's any other further discussion, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Marino absent and Commissioner McLaughlin absent.
Chair Gardner,
yes.
May we make an announcement here?
Yes.
The applicant has 10 days to appeal this item to the City Council within that 10 days. If it is appealed, there will be another notified public hearing before the City Council on this item.
Oh, if I could say one thing.
Commissioner Mill.
To the neighbors, just make sure you get your parking validated before you leave.
Okay, moving on to the next item. Item number 2, Ann Nee. It's good to see you.
Well said.
How do we keep this from not being for the following weekend? I mean, who do we call? Who do we talk to? Because more than likely they're going to have something.
All right, Ann, I think you can talk louder than these folks.
Okay.
We'll keep the ball going here.
Good evening, Chairperson, members of the Planning Commission. This request in front of you tonight is for an ABC license at the El Cortez Restaurant, located at 1227 East 17th Street.
Time out, friends.
Till Phil's back.
Oh, pardon me, I didn't see him leaving. Sorry, Ann.
No problem.
I was overzealous. He's probably having a beer. What's he doing?
No problem.
Sorry I didn't see you leaving. Okay. We've got
All right.
4 of us here now.
We will start again. Good evening, Chairperson, members of the Planning Commission. This request in front of you tonight is for El Cortez Restaurant for ABC license at 1227 East 17th Street. El Cortez Restaurant is requesting a conditional use permit for a Type 47 ABC license to allow the on-sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits at this location in the shopping center C4 zoning district. Here's a view of the project site, which is located near the northwest corner of 17th Street and Grand. It is zoned shopping center. C4 is surrounded by commercial uses. There's an existing CVS, and there is a lot of vacant spaces at the shopping center and the Taco Bell at the corner. Here's a view of the restaurant. This restaurant was originally constructed in 1965, I believe, and it was originally a Bob's Big Boy restaurant. And the last tenant there before El Cortez was Tacos Mexico. This restaurant is approximately 5,400 square feet, and it can accommodate approximately 180 seats. And the hours of operation would be from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. daily. Since the location is now within 150 feet of any residential use, a conditional use permit is not required to operate beyond midnight. Here's the floor plan of the restaurant layout. The entrance is on 17th Street, and open. They have some open seating and a bar area. The proposed ABC license will benefit the community by providing a ancillary service to the restaurant customers. An on-sale beer, wine, and distilled spirits license is consistent with the commercial uses in the area. Development standards in the Santa Ana Municipal Code has been adopted to address the operations of the use and mitigating any impacts to sidewalks, streets, and adjacent uses, and to ensure safe operations. With all the analysis that we just discussed above, staff's recommendation is to approve conditional use permit number 2014-16. And staff is here to answer any questions you might have, and I believe the applicant is also here if you have any questions for the applicants.
Any questions, Commissioner Becerra?
Just one question. Do you know, or have they expressed an interest in applying for an entertainment permit?
They have not expressed that specifically to me, but I think that will be a question for the applicant.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
They have not applied for one.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions for Ann? Okay, thanks. Do we have any written communication on this? Okay, man. Okay. Anybody wish to speak that has filled out a card or not filled out a card? Does the applicant wish to speak? Yeah.
Just briefly.
Yeah, okay.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Joseph Rodriguez. I assisted these folks with the CUP packet for them. To answer your question, Commissioner Becerra, yes, that we are preparing to put together an application for the entertainment permit, identifying all the requirements that comes with that. If you have any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thanks. Oh, pardon me?
I would just thank you for doing that. That's the proper process, and that's how it's supposed to be done.
Thank you.
Not the cart before the horse.
Yeah. I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission for discussion and or motion. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Mill?
I move that we adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit 2014-16 as conditioned.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I just want to say one thing. That area has definitely not had a lot of business in the last couple of years. So, you know, the Denny's going out on that corner, I think it'll be hopefully a good operation. Just, you know, have some life over there past 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So,
yeah, I'm glad to see you remodeling it and bringing it back to life. So.
I'm actually hoping we could do that. That shopping center has been vacant, and it's such a key component to that area. We have the Target Center, then, like you said, we got a nice Starbucks on the other side of the street, but Denny's is closed. So hopefully this is just maybe the start of getting that shopping center back up and running, because for years there was kind of a very active center in the city. Goodwill's gone now, right? They left from there, or are they still there?
No, I think they're gone.
I think so. Just to see some life. So I agree with Commissioner Becerra. It's a start, and hopefully it's a start of good things.
Any other discussion? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Alderetti absent, Commissioner McLaughlin absent, and Commissioner Verino absent. Good luck.
Thank you.
Item number 3, Holly.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight I bring before you the Rockfire Grill, which is located at 1945 East 17th Street, and this is in Unit 104. Raj Syal, who is here this evening, is requesting a conditional use permit for a Type 41 ABC license to allow beer and wine from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. This is in the shopping center where Gold's Gym is located. There's also numerous other retail, such as Hobby Lobby, and other food establishments, such as Witch Witch. And it is surrounded by residential to the north and a little bit to the west, you can see in the aerial, and commercial uses to the south and the east. It has ample parking. Here is just a site plan showing the parking and the 2 pads on either side. This is a photograph of the actual location. You can see just to the left of the Rockfire Grill where there's an outdoor seating area, holds 2 small tables in the front, and has a little over 200 square feet on the side of the structure between Gold's Gym and the restaurant. The floor plan indicates a relatively small dining area. It's only 1,000 square feet, and it's got a few tables on the outside. It's casual dining. It has got pizza and sandwiches. It's very popular as a lunchtime venue. Based on this application, the staff recommends approval of this because it's going to contribute to the general well-being of the neighborhood and prevents from the space being vacant. And it also provides a variety of different kinds of meal items for the community, including lunch and dinner. And this is important for the community's well-being. So we recommend approval. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions? Okay, great. Do we have any written communication on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Do we have anybody that wishes to speak in the public that has filled out one of these yellow cards? Okay, how about the applicant? Applicant out here?
Yeah, hi, my name is Raj Syal, and I'm the owner with my wife and my son. And we have had Rockfire Grill since almost a year now. And we have a lot of our customers who've been requesting that we should be able to provide them that service.
Beer and wine.
I think it's going to be a public convenience and almost like a necessity to enjoy the fine cuisine that I serve. So I think it'll be a good fit for the center. And even the landlord has expressed that it'll be good for the center. I mean, she hasn't written it down, but so I think it's going to be a good fit. A lot of people I see here are also my customers here, so they have also tried my food here. So I guess if you guys approve it, I'll be very happy.
Sounds good to me. Okay.
Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Any questions for the applicant from anybody? Okay, great. Then I'd like to bring it back to the commission for discussion, motion, etc. Commissioner Becerra.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we approve conditional use permit number 2016-16.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Mill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Alderetti absent, Commissioner Reno absent, and Commissioner McLaughlin absent. Good luck. Thanks. Item number 4, Ali.
Thank you, Chairman Gardner. Good evening again, members of the Planning Commission. For review tonight is variance number 2016-4 for the Meta Housing Adaptive Reuse Project located at 1666 North Main Street. This project proposes to convert an existing 5-story office building to affordable rental housing units for artists and their families, to also construct 3 new buildings for a total of 10,500 square feet in the new buildings, and to provide an overall total of 58 residential units and 113 on-site parking spaces. The project would also provide open space and on-site amenities. This is the site as it appears from the air. It's in the Midtown specific plan and is completely surrounded by commercial land uses. It's at the corner of 17th and Main. This is the proposed site plan. Although there's a lot of information on the plans, I'll just summarize it. Main Street is to the right, 17th Street is to the top. The existing 5-story structure is the large white area towards the right of the site plan. It contains a subterranean structure with a variety of tandem parking spaces. The structure was built for the office building when it was originally constructed. The 3 new residential buildings are proposed to the left of the site plan. There's a small one towards the north on 17th, a mid-sized one along Sycamore, and then a smaller one to the south. This is the site as it appears today. It used to be a bank building. Now it's housed a variety of office uses. It's largely underutilized. There is a high amount of vacancy in the building, and the project applicant is proposing to convert this building to residential units and to convert the ground floor spaces to a variety of commercial and community spaces. And then the 3 new residential buildings would be constructed to the rear of the site as seen from this photo. And this is a rendering of the proposed project. The ground floor would be rehabilitated with new glass and new building treatments. There's a lot of new landscaping and public art features. And the ground floor would contain a variety of commercial spaces, live-work units, maker space, music room, performing art space, and then residential support facilities. And then the mid-rise portion of the site would contain the residential units, laundry rooms, and other residential support features. So in analyzing the project, staff found that the proposed adaptive reuse project meets the requirements of the adaptive reuse ordinance, except for the parking. Although the majority of the spaces are tandem parking and that configuration is proposed to remain, it's important to stress that every unit will still have at least one dedicated space. Some of the units will have more than one, oftentimes 2, but at least every single studio, live, work, or 1-bedroom will have at least one dedicated parking space. The applicant provided a parking study as well as a parking space inventory analysis that showed that for this and similar projects, as well as other sites that they operate throughout California, including several in Orange County, that there was always a surplus of on-site parking at all times that the surveys were carried out. Conditions of approval have been added by staff to address on-site parking management and special events. And overall, the project will repurpose an underutilized structure and will add new modern buildings at a prominent intersection. Main Street more and more has been growing as an arts corridor, kind of like an interesting museum, and with the School of the Arts, and now this project is kind of adding to a big picture. And the project will help the city meet its goals of providing family-oriented, affordable housing that in this case targets artists and their families. The city has, I believe, committed approximately $4 million to this project, and through separate applications through the Community Development Agency and other funding sources as well. So based on this analysis, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt or approve variance number 2016-4 as condition. Be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Mr. Chair, if I may add one more thing, interject something that is important for you to know in the context. Normally, under the current housing opportunity ordinance, the developer would be able to ask for 2 concessions, and one of them could be the parking. In this case, because they're using the adaptive reuse ordinance, we had staff had neglected to add that comment for affordable housing to adaptive reuse ordinance. In other words, it's a technicality. It was a shortcoming on staff's part, on my part, when I did the adaptive reuse ordinance amendment to reflect the concessions that they can have in conjunction with providing affordable housing on site. Otherwise, this would have become unnecessary if we had incorporated that in the ordinance. So they're going through this application process simply because we neglected to put that in our ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question, Commissioner Mill?
What do we know what's going to happen with the current on-site businesses? Are they is this just going to be completely residential? So they'll be.
Yes, at some point they will all vacate, and this will become completely residential with on-site ground floor commercial uses.
Yeah, because the reason I ask is I see we received an email from Mr. Rush, and I know that he works for the Berkshire Hathaway that actually is in that building, and he failed to mention that. But so that building, so Berkshire Hathaway would be gone from that site.
Yes, they would have to relocate.
And just help me understand how close is this? I'm a little fuzzy here. How close is this to the Wilshire Square neighborhood, or Washington Square, or Floral Park, or West Floral Park? I know French Park is relatively close, but I noticed he was expressing concerns on behalf of all those. How close are those neighborhoods to the specific site?
Several blocks.
Several miles.
Blocks.
It's mostly blocks. Yeah, the Washington Square is to the southwest, and it's the residential properties are not near this site. They're several blocks away. French Park, Floral Park is to the north, west, and again, several blocks away. The site is completely surrounded by commercial uses right now.
And Wilshire Square is probably miles.
Oh, that's miles.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear, because I know we always like to take into consideration the concerns of the local neighborhoods. I just wanted to kind of get an idea of how close this specific site was to these neighborhoods that are mentioned here. Thanks.
Any other questions? Commissioner Bauer?
I had a question on the tandem parking. I'm just curious. So we're counting those as there's existing tandem parking. Is that you park in a queue front to back?
That's correct.
And so those are counting as 2 spaces?
Yes. So if a 2 or 3 bedroom unit were to come along and they were assigned 2 parking spaces, then they would get 2 spaces, for the family, and they would share car keys. Under the current parking count, depending on how you look at it, the management could elect to assign an entire row of tandem spaces to every 1 bedroom unit as well, so that you would not be forced to share car keys among neighbors. It would just be entirely within each family.
Okay. Just wasn't familiar with that arrangement.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Thanks. Do we have any other written communications other than what Commissioner Mill just brought up?
No, it's just the email
Just
from
the
Jim Rush.
email? Okay. Is there anyone in the public that has filled out or not filled out one of these cards that'd like to speak? Or the applicant? Are you the applicant? Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am Chris Maffris with Meta Housing Corporation. We're the applicant. Again, just wanted to introduce myself. Thank you for consideration tonight. Thanks staff for all the hard work they've put into processing our applicant. We're working with the city and on getting a financing application in June to compete for state tax credits, and they've been helping move the project along as quickly as possible. And again, I appreciate that. So.
Great, thank you. Any questions to the applicant? Okay, no. I'd like to bring it back to the commission for discussion and our motion.
I'd like to make a
Bauer?
motion
Sure.
that we adopt the resolution approving variance number 2016-04 as condition.
Commissioner Mill, did you ask? Or
Oh,
Commissioner
I'll
Becerra?
go ahead and second that, and I just have a comment.
Okay.
I think Commissioner Becerra and I both, this is something exciting when we see this, because this is kind of what we envisioned when we talked about the adaptive reuse ordinance. We went up to LA and toured some of the stuff they were doing up there, and this is one of the underutilized buildings in the city that for far too long is just really just sat there because we didn't have something like this. So I think it's great to see this coming in. Then maybe next the one at Washington and in Maine, and just keep going on. So thank you for bringing this project to us. I'm looking forward to it because, again, like I said, it's been underutilized for so long. I think that this could be the start of some very good things. So thank you.
I agree with Commissioner Mill. I always, every day, drive by that building and was hoping something good could come of it. And I think you've got a good-looking project, so that'll be a nice